In the 1920s, hundreds of thousands of people fell into a state that looked like sleep. But it wasn't sleep. Some of them stayed that way, frozen, barely able to move or speak, for the next 40 years. Then, in 1969, a doctor gave them a new drug, and they woke up. Between 1915 and 1926, a mysterious illness swept across the world, known as encephalitis lethargica, sleeping sickness. It affected roughly 1 million people. Some died within weeks, but many others survived in a strange, in-between state. Conscious, aware, but almost entirely unable to move, speak, or initiate any action at all. Doctors had no idea what caused it, and even less idea how to help the people trapped inside it. For decades, these patients were largely written off, housed in long-term care facilities, assumed to have no real inner life left. But some doctors who worked closely with them noticed something unsettling. Flickers, a finger twitch in response to a question, eyes that seemed to track a conversation. It raised an uncomfortable possibility that almost no one wanted to seriously consider. What if they were still in there the whole time? In 1969, a neurologist named Dr. Oliver Sacks was working at a hospital in New York, caring for a ward of these long-term patients. Sacks became convinced their condition resembled an extreme form of Parkinson's disease, and a new experimental drug, l-dopa, had recently shown promise treating Parkinson's symptoms. Nobody had tried it on patients like this before. Sacks decided to give it a try, starting with one patient, a woman named Leonard L., who had been almost entirely frozen for nearly 30 years. Within days, something extraordinary happened. The patient began to move, to speak. After almost 30 years of near-total stillness, she sat up and had a full coherent conversation, asking what year it was, and reacting with shock at how much time had passed. Sacks tried the drug on other patients in the ward. One by one, people who had been frozen for decades began to wake up. For a brief, remarkable window, these patients experienced something close to a second life, reconnecting with family, absorbing decades of change they'd missed entirely. But the awakening didn't last. Within weeks or months, most patients began developing severe, uncontrollable side effects, tics, spasms, and psychological disturbances. Doctors were forced to adjust and eventually reduce the medication. Many patients gradually slipped back toward their earlier frozen state, though rarely as completely as before. Sacks documented this entire event in his book, Awakenings, later adapted into an Oscar-nominated film. But beyond the story's emotional weight, it fundamentally changed medicine's understanding of consciousness itself, proving that patients who appear completely unresponsive may still have rich, aware inner lives, unable to express them. That single insight reshaped how doctors think about comas, locked-in syndrome, and disorders of consciousness to this day. The patients themselves live on as one of medicine's most profound bittersweet lessons. That presence and awareness can persist long after the ability to show it disappears. If stories like this fascinate you, subscribe. Every week, we dig into the strangest true stories medicine has ever recorded.